All right, hello everyone, and a very warm welcome to today's webinar on the topic, the transformation of pricing in the digital age. First of all, we would like to thank you for the extraordinarily high level of interest in our webinar. We really don't take that for granted. My name is Niklas. Today I'm both a moderator and a speaker for Smoobu. I kindly want to inform you that we have already held a series of exciting webinars. We covered many different topics, and if you are interested in those webinars, then I encourage you to have a look into our website smoobu.com. You'll find them in our webinar section. We will also send a recording of today's webinar to each participant tomorrow, just so that you know. So without further ado, Fausto, if you would be so kind to click to the thanks. So we are quickly going to introduce ourselves so that you also know who's sitting in front of you here. I think, or I'd assume, if you have already watched a few webinars on dynamic pricing, you might already know my face. My name is Niklas Sandmann. I'm 29 years old and have been working for Smoobu since January of last year, so roughly a bit more than a year now. My work here my work for Smoobu was my first professional contact with the tourism industry, and I have to say I do not regret taking the step at all, because my colleagues and I do what we can every day to make the life as easy as possible for our hosts, and thus really contribute to the most pleasant travel experience of their guests. We try to help our hosts to give their guests the best possible time, and I do really think that this is an absolutely worthwhile task. And now for the first time, I would like to hand over the word to my co-speaker Fausto. So Fausto, if you would be so kind to introduce yourself as well.
Hey, hello everyone. Good morning. Thank you for the invitation from Smoobu to be here. My name is Fausto. I work for PriceLabs more or less 4 years. For 4 years, I was a PriceLabs user before. I used to be a revenue manager and I worked in a couple of hotels in a large property management company. I've done a little bit of everything at PriceLabs, but at the moment I'm in charge of partnerships, mainly Europe. It's the market where I focus the most, but I deal with a little bit of clients all over the world. And today I'm very happy to be sharing a little bit of our insight and idea of what pricing is and what is dynamic pricing and why it's important, and a little bit the evolution or the differences of what was considered 5 years ago compared to today.
Also, I kindly thank you for your introduction. So let's move on to today's agenda. So first of all, we would like to introduce our companies to you in a little more detail. We will present the benefits that our customers experience when using our products, and also briefly discuss our history in each case. We are going to provide some valuable insights on how to get the most value out of our software. And my co-speaker Fausto will also provide you with all the knowledge you need to really successfully use PriceLabs for your rental business. And then in the end, we will also give you a short and a very crisp summary, and we will answer as many questions as possible that you ask us. In the agenda slide, now I've already briefly discussed how to ask questions. Our partners from PriceLabs will permanently answer your questions during the webinar, and Fausto and I will also answer a few questions at the end of the webinar. We would therefore ask you to ask your questions in such a way that I'd say the answers are relevant to the majority of our participants, and any questions that remain unanswered will be then answered after the webinar and sent to you by email. So Smoobu, the short-term and vacation rental software. How to get the most out of our product. Let's jump straight in, I'd say. As some of you may know, our company was founded in 2014 in Berlin by a person who was himself a vacation rental owner, and he was looking for a very simple and cost-effective way to manage his properties and thus achieve the highest possible occupancy by advertising on many portals. But at that time, almost all available solutions were very complicated to use, overpriced, and I'd also say more geared towards really large companies. So with few to no options, Smoobu was born out of necessity, so to say. And now, a full decade later, we are helping hosts from all over the world to manage their listings efficiently. We have created API and iCal connections with more than 100 booking portals and are proud partners of more than 30 integration providers. And most of today's participants, I'd assume, are already Smoobu users. So you will already be familiar with the majority of our functions, I suppose. And for those participants who are perhaps not yet super familiar with our platform, I will briefly outline and discuss them again. I'd say many hosts really want to maximize the occupancy of their vacation accommodation in order to maximize the profit. And in the past, you just had to manually synchronize the calendars of all portals. With our channel manager, I'd say without doubt the most important feature, those days are long gone. And our software makes it possible to import bookings from connected portals in real time, and also to export the availabilities to all connected portals. And this way, double bookings are being avoided. Prices and minimum stay durations can also be controlled centrally and then transferred to all connected portals. We also provide a website construction kit. We call it the website builder. It's an integrated book. No, it's not. It's a module on its own. And we also do offer an integrated booking system. Automated guest messages can be timed and sent to the guests whenever required. We also provide a dynamic guest guide that I will explain a bit more into detail. And our software also includes a guest registry. So you have all email addresses and guest names bundled in one place. I think that's really helpful, especially if you want to keep an overview of your guests. And of course, this is just an excerpt of the features that Smoobu offers. We have a whole lot of other functions in store. And as we don't always want to provide the same content, we are now conducting a brief survey to find out how many participants are already Smoobu users. I kindly ask you to answer it. Okay. All right, then. Thank you for your answers. That actually corresponds to my assumptions that there are already many Smoobu users today. Thank you for submitting your answers, and we are really concentrating now on explaining how to get the most value out of our product. So first, if you would be so kind to go to the next slide. Exactly, thank you. One of our key and also one of my absolute favorite features is the digital guest guide. How does it work? You embed a placeholder in one of our automatic message templates, and our product is designed so that the placeholder turns into a link that the guest can access. It automatically recognizes which booking is involved, so that the content is adjusted accordingly. You can really use this tool to convey content very compactly. That's comes in handy if you really just want to provide information centrally and easy to overview. And every rental owner, I'd assume, likes it when the house rules are read and I guess above all followed. So use the guest guide to communicate the house rules. For example, you can also display emergency contacts. You can advise your guests on where the best restaurants are to be found. And yeah, you can also give a brief overview of attractions that are worth seeing. The guest guide offers an integrated map, a WhatsApp button, and also you can also offer video instructions for self check-in. And it can also be used to list upsetting items. So, for example, if you rent out bicycles or got some sports equipment stored in the garage somewhere, then you can offer this for a fee via the guest guide to your guests. And yeah, I think you can already hear that the guest guide offers a considerable added value and also contributes to the best guest experience. Yeah, Fausto, if you thank you. Another feature that can significantly help to increase your market presence is our integrated website builder. It really enables you to create your own website, fill the individual building blocks to your own ideas, and create the website you imagine. Bookings via your own website are particularly suitable for returning guests in particular. And it would also be, I'd assume, yeah, no, it's not what I would assume. It's also possible to integrate our booking system into an already existing website. All you have to do, therefore, is to insert the corresponding HTML code that we give to you in the desired place, and our iframe will appear. I'd say the big advantage here is, of course, that you save the commission of the portals, which is, yeah, I think it's fair to say that it's gradually increasing over the years. So I suppose you can see the value that feature offers. Also, thank you. Yeah, and last but not least, we also offer the option to integrate any number of services. Yeah, you name it, you can integrate various payment systems. You can integrate check-in and registration services. Smart lock systems can be integrated. Cleaning services can be integrated. And what is really often used are systems for revenue management and dynamic pricing, of course. And a very well-established partner that offers such a service is PriceLabs. I assume this is also why most of you are participating in today's webinar. Yeah, so Fausto, I've already spoken a lot, and I'm going to give over the floor to you now and invite you to tell us more about PriceLabs.
Perfect. So, hi everyone. I will do a brief introduction about PriceLabs, who we are. We also started in 2014, same year as Smoobu. The company was founded in Chicago, in the US, by our three co-founders. Later, maybe 1-2 years after, we started to have the first clients in Europe, and yeah, we've grown, and now Europe and the US are our main markets. We have clients in more or less 100 plus countries, and at the moment we are seeking more than 300,000 listings daily throughout the world. We cover at the moment 5 languages. I know that the next one will be German, so I don't have a date yet, but we will have all the UI, everything in German as well at some point, and I think throughout the year, but I don't have the confirmation yet. But we have already German-speaking people in the team. They are being trained, so very soon they will be helping any client that we might have in Germany and needs someone native German. Jumping a little bit to our product, PriceLabs, it's a revenue management system. People sometimes focus only on the dynamic pricing feature. That is the most important. But we also have inside the tool other features that are very useful. We have the dynamic pricing tool. We have a portfolio analytics that basically it's a reporting tool focused on revenue management. So if you want to make decisions in PriceLabs, you have a reporting tool that is completely focused on what to do and why, and using data to make the decisions inside the system. We have a separated tool. This one is an extra. If it's a market dashboards and Revenue Estimator Pro. Revenue Estimator Pro, we just launched it, I want to say 2 weeks ago. This is more for market studies. If you want to invest, or if you want to open a new market and you just want a market report, this is not connected to your listings. This is completely independent. It's just market report, market study, and market data. Okay. If you want a market data tool, even if you don't want to use PriceLabs as a dynamic pricing tool, but because you don't think you need it, you can still use our market data tool. Okay. It's completely independent. Jumping a little bit on the introduction of the topic of today, I wanted to use this moment to launch a quick poll with only a couple of questions, very quick, very simple. One of the questions is are you using any dynamic pricing tool? It's great for us to understand if a lot of people are using it or not. Then we can talk why. At some point, if you want to contact us and tell us why you are using or not. Let's just give some time for people to answer. Yeah, sorry, I made a mistake. I said a couple of questions. It's only one. Okay, my mistake. Okay. Okay.
It's a very even result, I'd say.
Yeah. I'm seeing a little bit small. Okay, almost 50-50, correct? Okay, thank you very much for everyone that answered. It's very good news for us. Okay, it doesn't matter if you use PriceLabs or not. I remember 4 or 5 years ago when I was going to some events and asking how many people use a dynamic pricing tool, and it was like 5, 10, 15%. So if you have 50% using, this is great. I think it means that revenue management and dynamic pricing, people understood the importance of using it. Okay. So jumping today, I'm not focusing on PriceLabs as the UI or the tool or explain how to use it. I will focus on a little bit why is it important and what is changing, and why am I focusing on that? Because everyone that now hears about artificial intelligence, AI for this, AI for that, AI for that. There are a lot of different AIs, let's say it like that. But I think it is important to understand how dynamic pricing works and how the technology is evolving on the dynamic pricing side, and what us in PriceLabs, what we think that makes a difference, and what are we doing to get better. So just a little bit of history. In the pre-digital era, everything was based on intuition and localized knowledge. So basically, you have the knowledge of your market, and it was based on that, and some intuition. So I think this is going to happen based on my experience, right? And of course, as this was based on historical trends, you were working on the market, you understood the behavior. The behavior was a little bit more stable than now. Now it's a little bit more unstable. And also you knew your nerdy competition, and you kind of knew like what prices are they doing, etc. So it was a little bit what we do, but on not using big data or real-time data, right? And it was a little bit based on intuition. Then the dynamic pricing didn't start in accommodation. It started with airlines. So airlines were the first to start it. And they started really using a lot of data to increase or decrease prices. You still see it, right? That's why people, when they see a good deal for a flight ticket, they just buy it, because they know that at some point it will change. It then started to come to the accommodation side. If I'm not wrong, the first brand using dynamic price or revenue management as really a science was Marriott in the hotels, and then hotels started, but then it started to being used all over the place. I know that in some places even cinemas are trying to do dynamic pricing, renting, like co-working do dynamic pricing as well now. Some of them, not all, but all kind of industries can do dynamic pricing in their own way. Uber does it, right, or any kind of driving app, etc. The modern pricing is driven by a vast data sources. Okay, just to have you an idea, daily we scrape data from Airbnb, Booking.com, and Vrbo, our three main sources. We also have a partnership with Key Data and some locals and our own client database. But these are the main OTAs where we scrape data. And when we say that we get data from these OTAs, it means that every day we have to go to millions and millions and millions of properties that exist to get this data. This is not possible without the technology that exists nowadays. And here comes the AI, and let's call it algorithms and machine learnings and all of this. And what this gives you, it's a real-time, it gives you first the ability to use huge amounts of data that manually we cannot look at it, being cleaned and organized to give you an insight and a suggestion on what to do. Basically, in a very simple way, this is dynamic pricing, right? I've used this example of Taylor Swift here because last year and this year, everywhere that Taylor Swift concert was announced, it was one of the dates that had the biggest peak of demand. And this was worldwide. This was in Brazil, in Latin America, in US, in Europe, in Asia. So it's, to tell the truth, me personally, I didn't know that Taylor Swift had so many fans, but I learned it based on this data as well. The external factors that are usually used in dynamic pricing is market demand, local events, and the seasonal shifts. And I will stop only here. Seasonal shifts, and this is very, very important because market demand and local events always happened. Seasonal shifts in the past, and if there are any property managers here, they are in the market for 10, 20, 30 years. Before they were very, very, very stable year round. You knew that month the families will come, those months people from another country will come or another region of your country, etc. Now with the generation changes, the way you travel, the technology, even the pandemic, a lot of this changes. There is also another thing that will change a lot these seasonal shifts. There is climate changes as well, right? I can give you a real example. Last year in south of Europe, some places in Italy or Spain or Greece, right, due to the fires as well. If it's 50 degrees Celsius, people will probably avoid going there when it's 50 degrees, and they will start to go to another place. But maybe instead of going in July or August to that location, they might go on April or May. So there is a seasonal shift that is new. And why is it important to use technology for this? Because if you focus on historical demand, on historical behavior, this will not be picked up. This has to be picked up with real-time data that can be processed immediately. And when I say immediately, can be in the next day or 2 or 3, depending on the shifts. But this has to be updated at least weekly or monthly to understand if my seasons are behaving the same or not. The other seasonal shift is also based on demand. If you are in a market that, for example, let's use an example because I don't know in which markets each one of you are, but imagine that in your market, historically, you didn't have a lot of guests from the US, and now you have. Maybe they come in different moments than the traditional guests, okay? So of course, this doesn't affect everyone the same. Some people are in very, very conservative, like markets that are traditionally they don't have a lot of shifts. Maybe others are in urban markets that have a lot of shifts. So this will affect more or less depending on your location and your operation. But the seasonal shifts are one of the most difficult things to solve in terms of data, dynamic pricing, and all of it. Changing to the going to the difficult part, and I try to keep this very simple with daily examples for you to understand. What is AI for us, for example, right? You have an algorithm and you have machine learning. So the algorithm is like a recipe to cook, right? And there's here some examples of algorithms: Facebook's newsfeed, Google search predictions. This is all algorithms, okay? And imagine that in your cases, your mother or your father or your grandmother gave you a recipe, and you have 5 cousins, and all the 5 have the same recipe. Whenever you are going to cook, right, the how to cook, not all the dishes will be the same, because each one of you will do things a little bit differently, even with the same recipe. So the algorithm is the recipe. It's something made of code, made to work all of this data. But even if all algorithms are the same, and even if 3 companies have the same algorithm, then everything that is done by their engineers, by the data science teams, the way they cook it, the way they use the ingredients, the way they clean the data, it's what makes the difference. And let's making this connection, it's what really makes the difference. I added ChatGPT. Of course, PriceLabs is not a predictive AI tool, okay? It's different. There are different type of AIs, but it's an example. ChatGPT algorithm can be exactly the same as any other tool, but the way they work it, the way they feed it, the way they make this connection between the data and the tool, it's what makes the dish, let's use the dish example, the culinary, different. So I'm sure that all of you might cook the same recipe as your mother, but maybe something is different. Maybe some flavor is different. So there's something that is not the same, even we following the same instructions. That's the main difference between the technology part and the final result. That's why sometimes people focus a lot on the data itself and makes it, okay, what's your source of data? And we say, we have Airbnb, Vrbo, and Booking.com, as an example. And you ask, okay, other company also has it. Of course they have. They have exactly the same data. The way you cook this data, it's what makes the difference. And how you translate this data to technology and making the connection to you and show it in the system, how to use it, and then give a price recommendation. That's the big difference. And this is what we call AI in our sector, okay? It's algorithms and machine learning. Machine learning is if we have tons of data and then we have an algorithm and we are constantly doing things, the algorithm improves itself automatically by learning what is happening. If we see that this happens, like there's an action there and there's a consequence, and we see that the consequence is good and the result is good, so the machine, the algorithm learns that this is good, right? So we should do it, and that's what we call artificial intelligence in this case. Okay. What we try to do is making the fusion of this, okay? And this is what we do, and I think we do it good. Of course, this is always evolving, and is mixing the traditional algorithms at the core. That's traditional algorithms. There's only one. There's more than one. In haste with machine learning, okay? And all of this makes that the algorithm is always, and with updates that we do, and better data and better cleaning data and investing, mainly not on our team. The investment is not on the technology only, it's in the team that works with the technology. This makes that the tool gets more and more and more powerful. Okay. One of the things that I wanted to focus, because I think it's what makes the difference in PriceLabs, it's the way that we use this algorithm and how we evolve it. Till last year, we had a more traditional algorithm that was using like localized data see regional data, but not fully local. With the advances, like the technology is always going better, the processing capacity is always, we can process more data. So we created a new algorithm. We call it hyperlocal pulse because it's really hyperlocal. So imagine that you have a property in a specific street. It will go to that street and maybe 2, 3, 4 streets next to it, and it will focus both events, holidays, day of the week, trends, seasonality, pacing, all of this specifically for the properties that are close to you, not on the regional cluster. I have here an example of a table of the old algo and the hyperlocal pulse. And basically, the first 3 events, holidays, and days of the week, there's not a lot of changes, but in terms of seasonality, before it was very regional, right? So imagine this. You are in a location where there's mountains and there's city close by. If it's on a regional level, and if a tool is using regional level data, maybe it's using the seasonality, high or low, for the mountain and the city that is close by, maybe 10 kilometers away or 20 kilometers away. But maybe the mountain, it's very seasonal in winter, for example, and maybe only weekends, and the city, not as much. Maybe it's snow and city, right? This happens in a lot of markets. It happens in, I don't know, Turin. It happens in Switzerland, in Germany, in Austria, in a lot of markets. If it's not hyper-local, your seasonality might not be being applied correctly. The same happens to pacing. And pacing is the rhythm that you get bookings. If you are not getting the hyper-local of your competitors and it's hyper-local, the pacing might be very different. You can, for example, this is an example in Chicago, but this area is very different from this area. One is very focused on business, another one is not, as more leisure. So if you get the region, all the city, they will have the same seasonality, the same pacing, the same far out holidays, etc., and not locally, when this one is very different on this one, okay? And this is just one example. This happens in a lot of locations. Okay? So for us, this is our biggest evolution in the company and update that we have. Maybe some of you that are PriceLabs user, you received an update email with this because we promoted last year. But this was probably our biggest change and improvement in our tool. Okay. What are the main challenges and triumphs? I will say that the main challenge, there's 2, in my opinion. There's only one there, but I think there's 2. The main challenge is, firstly, it's the mindset. It's the person. It's you. If you never use dynamic pricing, you need to work your mindset to use it. Why? Because if you are used to make the decisions on pricing, you get a little bit nervous, and it's hard to trust that the tool will be able to do it. You are afraid of losing control, but don't worry. Like, always try it, because the tools give you everything that you need to keep your control and just optimize your results. You can set control everything that you want. The tool will always help you to improve. Of course, if you give more freedom to the tool, this optimization might be bigger, but if still, the most important thing is that you can sleep well at night. So it's more important that you sleep well than using PriceLabs. So if you want to use PriceLabs a little bit with more restrictions for you to be able to sleep well, I think it's so. And I say PriceLabs, if you use any other tool, it's exactly the same thing. I think all revenue management systems and dynamic pricing tools are useful at some point. If you use it well, it's always good to use it. Even if you have one property, I think you should use it. It's just something that makes your life easier. And then if you start to grow and have more properties, you are already using it. It's an automation. The other challenge is potential pitfalls of relying too heavily on data. So what does this mean? It's good to use data. It's used to good tools, but don't ever lose a little bit of control. Like, you should still, the idea is not to be 100% autopilot. you should still dedicate a little bit of time looking at the tool and see if you feel that it's correct or not. Why? Because if you rely too much on data, there might be some exceptions that data is still correct, but in your case, you are an exception. And data always, it's any process. If you have a process, it only works when things are going in the normal process, right? If you have an exception, the process will not work. The same happens with data. Data will always work, dynamic, like a price recommendation will always work, but imagine that in some case you have one property that is an exception, has something completely different. In that case, you need to adjust it, okay? Don't make the mistake of, okay, let's do everything the same. No, if you have an exception, you should focus on that exception, okay? But not everything is an exception. It's not because the houses are different or the apartments are different that, no. Exception is when something is different. For example, I have 10 apartments, but one of them I only rented for business travelers. All the others I rented for leisure. That's an exception. That one needs a different strategy, okay? It can't be the same as the other. That's an example. We can help, like if you use PriceLabs, every time you have these kind of questions, contact us or ask to talk with someone from the team, and we will help you to set up. For us, the best of the two worlds is the combination of data-driven insights and human judgment. There's always some feedback that you can give to the tool to help them improve, and that really improves. That's why machine learning, whenever you set your strategy in PriceLabs and you say, no, this not, and this will be like this, that helps our algorithm to improve as well, and helps you the next time the price recommendation will be a little bit better. If we start to see that a lot of our users in the same region are doing the same, we know that that's the correct thing to do, right? So data is important, but your feedback is also important, okay? And just for me to finalize, just 3 things. Data, don't make decisions based on only an intuition. Use data. We need data to understand if the decision is good, correct, or not. And also, track your results after making the decisions. If you have a goal, track if the decision had an impact or not, but give time to see it. Sometimes I see people, okay, after 2 weeks, it's not working. No, you have to wait. If you are constantly changing, you don't know what was the change that affects the result, for good or for bad. So that's my final suggestion.
Okay, thank you, Fausto. Now you have given us a real deep dive into PriceLabs, and I'd say we summarized the most important points again. At least I will do it. Not sure if you've already done it. No, there's different points I can see. Perfect. Yeah. I think what you can take away from today is that Smoobu really helps to simplify, to automate, and also to optimize your vacation rental in terms of occupancy and also in terms of revenue. And our product helps you to, or enables you to give your guests a unique and the best experience. We also offer the opportunity to integrate all kinds of services that will help you to make your life as a rental business owner as easy as possible. And Fausto, please also give us your key takeaways.
So my takeaway is PriceLabs automates pricing based on factors like seasonality, demand, and competition. This is don't forget this. Also, hosts can tailor pricing rules to their preferences, and this is basically you can keep your control of it. Okay, you can customize the strategy, but keep your control. And then PriceLabs continuously monitors market changes and adjusts pricing in real time. Okay, so the idea of revenue management is optimizing your results. Sometimes optimizing is selling more expensive. Sometimes optimizing is focusing on occupancy. So that's the goal of PriceLabs.
Cool. Then let's get to the Q&A. Please bear in mind that we will answer any questions that we can no longer answer due to possible time constraints after our webinar and send them to you by email. I can already see that you were busy asking a lot of questions, and I will kick it off with the first one addressed to us from Smoobu. How can I connect Smoobu and PriceLabs? That's rather easy. You will just have to insert the API key that we give you in PriceLabs, and then add information with regard to where your vacation rental is located, and how many people can get access to the vacation rental. And you can access this section directly from Smoobu. Just enter the settings section and then get to the integration sections, and then you will see PriceLabs, and you will just need to enter the required information. Also, there's a question directed to you. What is the average extra gains you can achieve with PriceLabs in Germany or in Europe as whole?
That's a very hard question, because usually I think, and don't get me wrong, but usually I think, I say it depends on the if the disease is very is very big or not. If you already do a lot of good things, if you already have a good strategy, and you apply already, you adapt a little bit the seasonality, the impact, of course, it will have an impact, but it will be lower than someone that doesn't do any change, that doesn't optimize anything. But our average, and by average, it's very dangerous to talk in averages, because we are mixing markets, different locations, different, if it's small apartments with big apartments. But I will say that usually when you start to use PriceLabs, you will have an improvement between 15 to 30%. Of course, if then you only improve 10%, don't tell me, you overpromised. It might happen that you only increase 10%, for example, but we also have people that increase more than 30%. As I mentioned, it depends on your product, like if you have very high ADR or low ADR, etc. As well, it depends on the location, if it's leisure or business, it depends a lot. But I will say between 15 to 25, it's the average.
But those are impressive numbers, I have to say. Another question, is a video available of how to use a digital guest guide? Actually, I'm not sure if there's a video available, but we have an archive with a lot of articles that actually explain everything you can do with Smoobu. So I would encourage you to have a look into our help center. And I also know that there's going to be another webinar that has a topic, a digital guest guide. And my colleagues, or maybe even me, will give you more instructions on how to set it up and optimally use it. Okay, so there's another question. How does PriceLabs know if an apartment is a basic one or a luxury apartment when comparing prices with others? Fausto, can you answer this question?
Yes, of course. So basically, there is no way when you get public data to know by terms of quality, because in the apartments, there's not a standard like in hotels that is the 1 star, 2 stars, 3 star, 4 star, 5 stars. What we do, I know Booking.com kind of tried adding like like circles and all of that, but we still don't understand fully how they decided. What we try to do this is with the base price. So imagine a real example. You have a base price of 100, and base price can be the average, right? That's your price. In a normal season, your price is 100. In the area where you are located, and you are a 1-bedroom, in the area where you are located, the 1-bedrooms have in average a price of 80. So we know that you are 20% above average in terms of quality. Okay, so the quality is based on average price. Okay, so when you are setting a property in PriceLabs, you will have some market data, and we will show you this is the average in the area for a 2-bedroom, for example. This is the 25th percentile, so let's say the economy average, and this one is the upscale average. Then you can decide based on your knowledge of your product if you feel that you are above average or not to set your base price. And we use the base price as the positioning of quality in the market. I will tell you, no algorithm, at least that I know, and I think it doesn't exist, no algorithm can get the information of the quality of the sofa, if the mattress is comfortable, if the shower, the water is good or not, or the pressure. So that's always your feedback as the owner of the property. So you can feed that feedback when you are setting your base price in PriceLabs, and we will use that to position your property more on the upper segment, lower segment, average, etc. I hope it was clear, but if you need extra info, you can contact us and we can send you even an example or a video explaining how we do it.
Yeah, thank you for this very comprehensive answer. There is another question. Is using PriceLabs with Smoobu free, or does it require an extra fee? I mean, I can also answer this question. It's not free, but also maybe you want to outline your pricing a bit more.
Yeah, so because PriceLabs is a completely independent tool and a full other service, you have a price. The price depends on the number of listings that you have, okay? Imagine if it's one listing, it will be, I will say in dollars, I have in memory by dollar, but it's $20 per month, $19.90, so maybe 19 euros. But if you start to grow the number of properties, the average price per property will start to decrease. So if it's one, it's like, let's round it up to euros, like 20 euros or 19 something euros. But you have two, each one will be 15 euros. So if you start to increase the number, it will start to decrease the number, the average price per property. In this, of course, it includes the using the tool, all the technology of the tool. It includes assistance from our support team. Our support team works 24 hours per day, 7 days per week, in 5 different languages. And if you have a very specific account that is a little bit large, or you need an implementation that is a little bit more complicated, we will also help with all of that. So everything is included in the price.
Also, if I may add to your answer, it's 20 euros per month, right?
It's 19.90. Our price is in dollars. Sorry, our type price in the website is in dollars. So converting to euros might be a little bit lower than that, but it's 19 something. One property, right? If you have 10, the price will be maybe like 10 per each one, or so it will start to reduce, okay, depending. But you have calculated in our website. You can just go there, set the number of properties, and you will see the final price.
As you know, I just wanted to point out that the prices are per month and not, I don't know, per week or per year. You could also assume that, but it's just one to another question. What is the difference between a channel manager and a PMS? Yeah, I think I can answer this question. These terms are closely related. PMS actually is the calendar that you can see in your Smoobu account, where all the bookings are being imported into. And where you can set your prices and the minimum length of stay. And the channel manager actually describes the connectivity that we have to the respective OTAs to import those bookings and to export the ones maybe that are generated via your own website. I hope that answers the question. How does the dynamic pricing work? What has priority? PriceLabs or Smoobu? Does Smoobu modify the price received from PriceLabs in accordance with the rate policy? Also, do you want to answer this question, or do you want me to answer it? Maybe we can both.
Just to be sure that I understood correctly the question, because I'm not being able to read it, not sure why. But just to be sure, if they are using PriceLabs, what price will be sent to the channels and website? That's the question.
No, the question was actually 3 questions in one. The first one was, how does the dynamic pricing work? I think you already outlined that in full detail, and most likely it's not possible to answer that part of the question. What has priority, PriceLabs or Smoobu? I think maybe I can answer it. We actually import the prices that you export, and then send the prices to all connected OTAs in accordance with what you also entered in Smoobu in the rate policy section. For each connected portal, you can see that there are additional options to add price informations, and PriceLabs only always changes the base price, the price for one night that we then distribute to the connected OTAs. I think that should answer the question. What are the advantages of combining PriceLabs strengths with Smoobu strengths? Maybe it's not really sure. Do you want to answer that, or? Maybe I can
About
also
combining the
quickly.
strengths.
Yeah, I mean, I can also I can start first. Then, if you want to add something, I'd say the combination of Smoobu and PriceLabs, yeah, just helps you to really be competitive with the prices. You've got a state-of-the-art tool to keep your vacation rentals priced, and we then distribute those prices to all connected portals.
Yeah. So basically an RMS, and that's why I talk a little bit of history. RMS and dynamic pricing exist in the airline industry, in the accommodation industry for 30 years. It's not something new. But till 10 years ago, maybe, the majority of the companies that had the money to invest in a revenue manager and a revenue management system were big hotel brands and airlines, and basically all the big hotels like Marriott's, Hilton's, all of that have revenue management systems, quite expensive, quite thing that you need to hire people only to manage the tool. You need to have dedicated revenue managers, etc. The goal of a company like PriceLabs is to give you top-notch technology, giving you access to a huge amount of data and algorithms and artificial intelligence, everything, to give you access to the same technology that airlines have, or that big hotel brands or big or companies like Uber have. That's why the price is changing Uber, if it's raining or not, if there's more cars or not. So it's giving you access to the same kind of technology, the same kind of knowledge, and also, of course, with the support of a team that can help you to get the best out of the tool. That's our goal, and that's why if you use both the good PMS and good channel manager like Smoobu, and then you add an RMS, it's optimizing more the result, because the goal of a PMS and an RMS is different. A PMS is to help you with operation, with everything, bookings, etc., calendars, all of that, cleanings and guest optimization. The goal of ours is making you make more money and being more competitive when booking. So optimizing when you book, how you book it, to who you book, and at a better rate, basically is this. And of course, some automation in terms of rates.
All right, thank you for your answers. Another question addressed to you, Fausto. How often is the competition compared and adjusted during the day?
Yeah, in average, throughout the day, no, usually 24 hours. Usually in less than 24 hours, there's not enough changes in the market. And when you say competition, I imagine that you are talking about the area where you are located. Usually in less than 24 hours, there's not enough changes in the market to make a new price recommendation, unless you are saying, but I want to focus only in one or two competitors specifically. In that case, yes, you can do more than once, okay? But if it's a market, usually what we do a sync every 24 hours with new data every 24 hours.
Thank you. And another one for Fausto and PriceLabs. Hi, what makes the big difference between your solutions and others like Wheelhouse, Beyond Pricing, Opturate, etc.? Maybe you can outline that a bit more to detail.
I think that of the names you said, only two are competitors. The other is not our competitor, but maybe there was like some, but the difference, I think, as I mentioned before, all of us, we have algorithms, all of us have data, and of course, I will not try to compare algorithms because no one knows how the other algorithm works. It's private, it's confidential information. In terms of data, I'm not sure if we all have the data sources. I know that we have Airbnb, Vrbo, and Booking.com, and every property that is there. I'm not sure if all the others also have all these three sources. I'm not saying no, I'm not saying yet, I'm saying I'm not sure, okay? But the main difference is what I think, okay? It's our customization power. I think we have more customization power than some of our competitors. Of course, this then goes a little bit by personal tastes. Some people might prefer one thing or the other. All the three tools are good tools. It's just a little bit of what you prefer. I think the main difference is the team. I think we have a very, very good support team, very, very good, very, very quick. I also think that our data science team and our sales solution consultant team is very good as well. But at the end, it's very hard to compare algorithms and data science teams because that's all confidential information. Like we don't know what the other companies do in that case, so it's very hard. My personal suggestion is exactly like if you go and buy a car. If I ask you what is better, Volkswagen, a BMW, or Mercedes, you will say it depends. It depends on what you use it for. It depends on the model. It depends on your personal taste. Some people will prefer one or the other. So it's a little bit like that. My suggestion will always be like, maybe talk with 1, 2, or 3, make a test and see the difference. Make the right questions. Of course, there is one difference. It's pricing models. Okay, some companies have different pricing models than the others. You should see the ones that adapt better to you as well.
Okay, thanks again for this very compelling answer. And this also poses the end to our Q&A today. We are still receiving many questions that we unfortunately won't be able to answer now. But as I already told you, we are going to answer them obviously and then send them to you via mail after this Q&A, after this webinar, I'm sorry. Also, if you would be so kind to...
Just wanted to thank everyone that stick to us to the end and everyone that joined at some point. Thank you to the Smoobu team. Always great to work with you guys. And yeah, if you need anything, you can contact PriceLabs directly.
Yeah, thanks. Also, I want to seize the opportunity to say or tell you that we are very appreciating of your interest in both of our companies. And we also kindly thank you for your interest in today's webinar. And as we said, we will send each one of you a recording. Yeah, and that's it for today's webinar. For now, I'd say have a good rest of the day and see you soon.
Thank you.